right, we're going to skim across the Atlantic and over to Europe to our European correspondent, Christian Falk. And Christian joins us this morning. Thank you for joining us, Christian. And we want to talk a bit about some of what's been happening, especially from a military standpoint, with focus in Europe of building up the military strength once again because of not being able to rely so much on the U.S. anymore. And on Monday, Prime Minister Mark Carney made a major defense announcement where he said that Canada will meet its 2% NATO spending guideline in the current fiscal year, which is about 5 years earlier than planned by the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and his successive governments. And also, we're moving to reduce our dependence on the U.S. as far as military supplies. And that means we're going to be paying closer attention to what the various European nations have to offer. Now, that was on Monday. Today is Tuesday, and I'm wondering if there's much interest, if it's getting a lot of play in your part of the world at the moment.
Well, we came to the same conclusion here. I mean, it started a little bit earlier after the attack in 2022 when Russia invaded the Ukraine. We had heavy discussions in here and had a fast package of $100 billion released by, or euros by Germany, running extremely fast into the defense. We all know that Germany's defense system, given also the background, we had our recent past, the Second World War, we had a spending cap on our defense, specifically also not able to, and still to our days, not to put any funding into nuclear weapons. However, the German defense system was on a decline, and we came back to senses. We reached the NATO goal of 2%, I think, last year, 2 years ago, now heading to 2.2%. But there are a lot of discussions now, also here within the European Union, to increase it over the next 10 years to 3.5 to up to 5%. Germany, the new Chancellor Friedrich Merz said it, and he's pushing already big funds into the new into the military here in Germany. Currently, we're spending around $70 to $80 billion, which is around 2.2% of the GDP, and we're looking at almost dollars into spending until 2033, 34, yeah.
Now, here in Canada, part of this announcement the other day also, as I said earlier, was working on reducing our dependence on the Americans for defense equipment, and that we are in the process of reviewing purchases like the F-35 fighter jets, which we have committed to buy at least 16 initially, and more in the future. But we're also now looking at, that's under review, and we're looking at other jets, European options, and all of that, not only on fighter jets, but other equipment, because he plans on beefing up our military equipment significantly, everything from vehicles and drones and the fighter jets through to submarines. That has to have caught the attention of your leaders, because there could be significant investments coming in the not too distant future as we turn to you and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, we're going to buy some of your equipment because it fits our needs. Plus, it gives the interoperability as we join forces with you, in bolstering your defense against Russia.
Yeah. So, when you look at the ammunition or the armor production in Germany, the capacities are like they're big. I just read an article that with one of our producers called Rheinmetall, we could produce more ammunition than all US American ammunition builders combined together. The problem is only the planning. So if there is not a security coming from the government itself, like from any out of Europe, like Germany, Italy, France, if the orders are not in, they cannot plan. So, but if we see now countries teaming up and they see a big order flow and like the consistency, like we have the capacity to supply Europe, but also Canada. Yeah. So we always welcome those those requests.
Is there much discussion about the fact that Prime Minister Carney has been paying more attention to Europe as a potential trade partners, and that he's been over to Europe speaking with various leaders a lot in the last few months, and really seems to be putting on a push? Is that catching the attention of others outside of the European leaders themselves within your area?
Yeah, I mean, not only like on the defense point, but also on the economy. We try also to look for other trading partners outside the US. Like this is actually what Europe is doing at the moment. We're diversifying and leaving our export market from the US, or reducing it at least, looking in all kinds of directions, and knowing the strong partnership between Canada and also Germany, there are a lot of similarities, and we try to build on that. Still, there's the ocean in between, like we cannot oversee that, but we want to intensify our partnership with Canada, which also showed the previous discussions if Canada could actually join the European Union.
A lot of talk here, and the Prime Minister met with the premiers a week ago and talked about national infrastructure projects that would benefit Canada, but also help to expand our economy. And again, one of the key areas we're looking as far as Europe is concerned, and even Southeast Asia, is the energy sector. We have the natural gas, we have the crude oil that we can sell. We just have to complete pipelines, getting it to points where it's much easier to ship off to Europe. Has that caught the attention over there? Because I know you're looking for something to offset what you were depending on Russians for as far as natural gas is concerned.
Of course, since the US cut like Nord Stream 2, like we're looking for alternatives and alternative energy supplies. And like Europe, Canada, like even though there's the ocean in between, like natural gas is in any case shipped by LNG tankers. So even though there is no pipelines yet, there is different solutions. But what we're definitely trying to do is to get more independent from the US, and with that also putting more pressure on the US. And I think that's the same what Canada is doing. I mean, you cannot avoid the domestic trade between Canada and the USA because it's too intertwined. But eventually, like Canada, but also Europe and all the other countries to trade it with the US, looking for alternatives. And we see there is a shift in global trade, and it will just extend, in our opinion.
When the Prime Minister met with the premiers last week and talked about these projects of national significance, one of the things that he said he would do is at the federal level, instead of having 2 or 3 different levels of approval that could take up to 5 years, he is looking to streamline the process with one federal approval and taking no more than 2 years. Now, somebody who is involved in the resource trade, that must be music to your ears.
Sure, especially here in the Western world where everything on the, let's put it like this, on the compliance side and on the due diligence, like things taking too much time. There's too much bureaucracy. But especially now, like when you look, for example, on the defense spending, like the European Union got together and everything goes fast now. You know, like they see the urgency. Maybe not necessarily on the economy, but like on the defense spending, we see that there is a faster movement than it used to be. Faster processes, yeah.
Now, has there been anything else that has popped up as far as any kind of coverage that you're aware of related to Canada? I guess maybe let's go back one step, because there's something that you in Europe share in common with us here in Canada, and that has been the individual occupying the Oval Office in the White House in the United States. The attention that he has been getting in the past, is that kind of leveling off and getting pushed to the back of the bus, so to speak?
You mean about Trump in general? Or
yes.
Yeah. From what we see now, like the coverage about North America here, like media coverage about North America slowed a little bit down. We're really self-centered here and focused and get like our defense problem back into place. Like we really see Russia now coming as a threat. We cannot rely on the USA and whatever they do in their part of the world. We just see like what we see here from European media is the USA is falling apart. Look at California, like they don't have anything under control. When we see media coverage, what's happening between Musk and Trump, it looks for us like a joke. You know, like you cannot, like this is not, we don't take that serious anymore. Like this looks really like unprofessional. So instead of focusing on the USA, we really try to step back from them, like getting back into place on our own. We know we missed a couple of years specifically on defense spending, or getting more independent from the USA, and look for new alliances, but also get stronger in the NATO. But we see also like Canada's also putting more military into Latvia, from what I just read like a couple of days ago. So you're also increasing your presence here in Europe, and also looking for joint projects, as you already mentioned, on the military sector. So when it comes to defense spending, there were already some projects in the past where one of our major armor suppliers based out of Germany, Rheinmetall, had like a contract with Canada on some defense system for the Marines, Canadian Marines, and I think they're going to look back into this as well. So there's some movements between Canada specifically and Europe here.
And whether he realizes it or not, Trump is being left out in the cold. Certainly, it's going to be interesting to see how the leaders react, what kind of a reception he receives at the G7 here in Canada later this month, for sure.
Exactly. Well, we have not too much good left for him at the moment.